Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisances. So today we are reading Canto 6, Shrimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, text 19. Yamarāja Prabhu, please read the Sanskrit version. Okay. Should I read the word-for-word translation? Sakrit once only. Manaha, the mind. Krishna pada aravindayo, unto the two lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Niveshitam, completely surrendered. Tat, of Krishna. Gunaragi, which is somewhat attached to the qualities, name, fame, and paraphernalia. Yai, by whom? Iha, in this world. Na, not. Te, such persons. Yamam, Yamarāja, the superintendent of death. Pashabrita, those who carry ropes to catch sinful persons. Cha, and. Tat, his. Patan, order carriers. Svapneapi, even in dreams. Pashyanti, see. He indeed. Chirna Nishkrita, who have performed the right type of atonement. So now the translation of this text. Although not having fully realized Krishna, persons who have even once surrendered completely unto his lotus feet, and who have become attracted to his name, form, qualities, and pastimes, are completely freed of all sinful reactions, for they have thus accepted the true method of atonement. Even in dreams, such surrendered souls do not see Yamarāja or his order carriers, who are equipped with ropes to bind the sinful. So now Srila Prabhupada's comment. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 18.66, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. The same principle is described here. If by studying Bhagavad Gita one decides to surrender to Krishna, he is immediately freed from all sinful reactions. It's also significant that Shukadeva Goswami, having several times repeated the words Vasudeva Parayana and Narayana Parayana, finally says Krishna Padaravindayo. Thus he indicates that Krishna is the origin of both Narayana and Vasudeva, even though Narayana and Vasudeva are not different from Krishna. Simply by surrendering to Krishna, one fully surrenders to all his expansions, such as Narayana, Vasudeva, and Govinda. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Mata parataram nanyat, there is no truth superior to me. There are many names and forms of this Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is the supreme form. Kṛṣṇastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, Krishna recommends to neophyte devotees that one should surrender unto him only, Mamakam, because neophyte devotees cannot understand what the forms of Narayana, Vasudeva and Govinda are. Krishna directly says, Mamakam. Herein, this is also supported by the word Krishna, Padara Vindaya. Narayana does not speak personally, as Krishna does, or Vasudeva does in Bhagavad Gita, for example. Therefore, to follow the direction of Bhagavad Gita means to surrender unto Krishna, and to surrender in this way is the highest perfection of Bhakti Yoga. So that's the purport of the first passage by Srila Prabhupada. So he explains what all this terminology means. There are many manifestations of God, as we know, limitless, matter of fact, and a person might get confused. Whom to devote his life, which God, which religion to, what name to meditate on. But an ordinary person is not capable of meditating on any name, on God as well. In most of the cases, people just stop on an impersonal aspect, and they cannot go any further, because there's some entanglement, some problem that cannot be solved enter the consciousness. Does this God have a form, or his formless Narayana, Govinda, a lot of different things, how to connect all these things, how to worship these gods, and what God to worship to? Usually people find a contradiction in God himself. So meditating on the personal aspect and spiritual aspect, they still have some contradiction, because the material consciousness still remains. A person does not realize what the spiritual variety is and the source of it. So that's what Prabhupada says here. Narayana does not speak to a person. Person can never understand what Narayana says. But what Krishna says, it's understandable. Because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita refers to the whole humankind, humanity. Narayana is always not manifested. He is in the highest dimension. He is even beyond Brahman. So how can an earthly person can hear what's been said beyond Brahman? See, Krishna has explained everything about him, even from the point of view of the goodness of material nature. So that's the God, that's the beginning of everything. Because the God himself is located beyond his material manifestation, his material creation. But the aspect of all attractiveness is piercing everything. Krishna supports everything. Narayana and Vasudeva are his expansions. There are a huge variety of expansions that exist. And none of the Vishnu Tattvas can be reached by a person, can be understood by a person. It's beyond our understanding. Just like Krishna says, just surrender, fully surrender unto me. He tells about his manifestations in this material world in the 7th canto. He's talking about the goodness of material nature and says how, with the decisiveness in the mode of goodness, to surrender unto Krishna. And at this he says that it's not difficult for a person. No difficult rituals, just a little water, flower, fruit, and do it all with love. That's all he needs. And he needs nothing else at all. There are no austerities, no penance, no very deep philosophical knowledge. You don't have to take on sannyasa. You will not find anything of that in Bhagavad Gita. No matter who you are, a woman, Vaishya, even Shudra, doesn't matter, just know the knowledge about Kṛṣṇa. Know this science. That means that Kṛṣṇa is the closest one. He can communicate, he can associate with the person. And this is his supreme position. He can liberate any living entity. He can take on any image in any form of life. That's what he does. That's why it is said in Bhagavatam, and it just seems to us that he leaves his usual position by coming down to people in his human form. So it's called Prakata Lila. There is Aprakata Lila and there is Prakata Lila. Manifested Lilas. So he also comes down to a human level and he behaves like a human. So no matter what origin he's got in the earthly form, and he says that people just don't understand it. People don't really understand it, but anyways, he comes down. He descends. And he tells Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and at the same time for the whole humanity, for the whole world. For the people just listening to this conversation, they already worship me. You see, it's not so difficult. Matter of fact, we are the servants of Kṛṣṇa. Either we know it or we don't, doesn't matter. The eternal servant of God, that's what it said. So Narayana is the shelter for all the people. So first we have to get purified to earn adequate level, to a certain level. But even in the age of Kali, it is really difficult to surrender to Kṛṣṇa. Even by understanding his all attractiveness, it's still difficult. So that's why Lord Chaitanya has come down as a devotee. So Kṛṣṇa himself, actually, to get with Radharani, they give us the liberation. No one else can do that. So there's a combination of transcendental knowledge and limitless grace can be accepted by any person. Anyone who surrenders unto me gets liberated. Even the most sinful of all the sinners, you get liberation. If you surrender unto me, if you call up to me, you get your liberation. You will not find any similar text anywhere else, in any other scriptures. Narayana does not speak to a person. First we have to get liberated before you reach Narayana. But here it says that even if a person does not know who Kṛṣṇa is, he still is considered to be sinless. That's his special position of God. And it's manifested the most in Lord Chaitanya Prabhu manifestation. Gaudiya Vaishnava, they spread this set of mind of Lord Chaitanya Prabhu, not only for Brahmanas or Aryas, only for the people that envy, just to prove the existence of God to them, just to give them a taste of prasadam. You see, we spread it in the most simple and accessible method these days. This knowledge of Kṛṣṇa. Eating prasadam is the easiest practice. Japa meditation. For some people it's difficult, but matter of fact, it's a very simple practice. Matter of fact, if we talk about japa meditation, so we have to do it 24 hours a day. That's what Prabhupada used to say. But we do just 16 rounds a day. Matter of fact, it's not so challenging. If a person wants it. If the person wants it. So just by desiring so, you receive Kṛṣṇa. But matter of fact, people these days, they do not even want it. Just a little bit of desire, but it's not enough. Even to bring food to the altar, already difficult. It's amazing. So thus, Lord Chaitanya says, there are holy names that have all the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnu and Govinda, they can liberate the whole universe. But people are so unhappy that I'm not even attracted by them. Sometimes I read, I hear, but I don't even have this taste to chant holy names. It is difficult for me. So what am I supposed to do then? If anyways a person has some desire to get this taste, Guru Pancha Tattva, that gives you this taste in advance, you just have to have at least of desire, at least desire to have this desire. This process will already start. So Kṛṣṇa in the 6th canto explains how yoga, the 8-stage yoga, been so strict. One deviation you fall down. And here just one desire and you get advanced. Now you understand who Kṛṣṇa is, how close he is. That's why Shukadeva Goswami says, who am I supposed to worship to besides Kṛṣṇa? There are many expansions, many manifestations, but they're not accessible. Even though I try to worship them, I have to be highly qualified to do that. But Kṛṣṇa does not demand of us anything. You just surrender unto me, do it with love, and bring me a flower with love, and I will accept it. Because we are friends, I accept it. I'm giving you this intelligence. Use this intelligence in order to reach for me. Kṛṣṇa is giving everything. Prabhupada used to say that a lot. So we are the richest organization because Kṛṣṇa is the richest one. That's why we are not attached to Kṛṣṇa, because it all belongs to Kṛṣṇa. We don't even worry about that. Kṛṣṇa is the richest, the smartest one. We have all the knowledge, all the riches just because we have Kṛṣṇa. He gives us everything. Why? Because we are offering flowers on the altar to Him, the food, the fire. That's all enough for Kṛṣṇa to give us all these awards, liberation, and to take us to Goloka Vrindavan. So that's the name of Kṛṣṇa. Why do we chant Hare Kṛṣṇa? Because it is recommended, first of all, in the age of Kali, to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa name. So these 3 words will stop Kali, but at least we have to have some desire, a little bit of desire at least. So what desire am I talking about? I will try to explain it to you. It should be sincere, should be real, not sentimental. As people say, you see, I pity animals so much being slaughtered, but still these people eat animals. This is so just on the surface. But when you stop eating animals, that's the real desire. Not like, it's like fashion. Today I want this, tomorrow I want that. Changes all the time. This is just a surface platform, just a platform of sentimental feelings, sentimental senses. Because I'm under an influence on some person, some people that I say, yes, I'm the servant of Kṛṣṇa forever, and now I'm going to be chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Because I expect it to be joyful to me, pleasant. But when it becomes a little bit challenging, I'm so like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that anymore, I can't do it anymore. It's called Samatma in Bhagavad Gita. That has these doubts, deceiving himself, he will not be happy either in this life or in the next one. So you have to have at least one little desire. That's when Lord Chaitanya is giving us the power of this desire. He gives us this desire. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing it. There's like a market of holy names when Nityananda is selling it, selling his goods, holy name. So you have to buy it. You have to exchange it for your desire. You want it? I sell it to you. in exchange for your desire. Amazing currency. So that's the currency that exists in the spiritual world. No money, but there's a desire, and the trading takes place. Just go out there to the market and buy whatever you want, just because you have this desire. And sometimes when a person comes, he doesn't have this desire, but still he's interested, and then Nityananda gives him this desire in advance. Even if this person feels something, this is already a good thing. He says, I want it. So I didn't want it just a minute ago, but now I do have this desire. So there was one neophyte person that's been to Kirtan for the first time, and he said for just an hour there, then he stood up immediately. He said, we have to spread it everywhere on TV, radio, journals and newspapers. We have to tell everyone what Kirtan is, what the holy name is. When he came there, he was totally in Tamaguna, and it took him only 1 hour. You see, it happens too. And everyone, it's not an exclusion. It's just we all have felt it at one moment, because we were given this in advance, because we were just interested in it. And this interest was sincere. If you have this interest, you will undoubtedly feel the power of the holy name. What an easy, and simple and ecstatic practice it is, and joyful at the same time. Here Prabhupada says that for the neophyte, it is very difficult to meditate on Narayana or Vishnu, but you can meditate on Kṛṣṇa with the help of Bhagavad Gita, because he said it twice, both to Arjuna and Uddhava. So this was just one part of the commentary, the purport. Let's continue doing that. Parikshit Maharaja had inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how one can be saved from falling into the various conditions of hellish life. In this verse, Shukadeva Goswami answers that a soul who has surrendered to Kṛṣṇa certainly cannot go to Naraka, hellish existence. You know, if God protects you, no one can harm you. Everything depends on Him. If Kṛṣṇa wants to kill someone, who can protect you? And if He wants to protect you, who can kill you? So now we only depend on the will of Kṛṣṇa, nothing else. To say nothing of going there, even in his dreams he does not see Yamarāja or his order carriers who are able to take one there. In other words, if one wants to save himself from falling into Naraka, hellish life, he should fully surrender to Kṛṣṇa. The word sakrit is significant because it indicates that if one sincerely surrenders to Kṛṣṇa at least once, he is saved even if by chance he falls down by committing sinful activities. Therefore, Kṛṣṇa in Bhagavad Gita 9:30 says, even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. Such a powerful protection by God. Take a look at it. We're not supposed to be naive. Don't think that a devotee does not commit sins. It can happen just by mistake because he used to do it in his previous life. Of course, a devotee can make some mistakes. We know a story. In Dvaraka, Satyajit has made a mistake because he didn't trust Kṛṣṇa. He was spreading some bad rumors when he lost the stone of Syamantaka. Because he was greedy, he felt some attachment. And remember, this was a king of Dvaraka that has received the right to live in Dvaraka together with Kṛṣṇa in the same place. But eventually, Kṛṣṇa has helped him. he has proved his so he has actually purified Sahajit, and he even offered his daughter to Kṛṣṇa. So Kṛṣṇa takes care of his devotees, because finally, in the end of the day, this is his people. This is his tribe, his own tribe. Even these things happen. So do not idealize people. Devotees can also make some mistakes. They also can do some silly things. But if this is a devotee, he will repent. And this penance is enough. You don't have to go any further. If he has repented deep in his heart, that's enough. Just because he's a devotee. And devotee will repent sooner or later. So that's how Kṛṣṇa protects us both from the inside and outside. Even when we leave this body, Kṛṣṇa takes care of our next body, so that our devotional service continues, so that we don't forget about this service. He gives us this indestructible memory. He says you will never get confused if you know who I am, if you realize it's who I am. And if you do not know what you're going to be doing in your next life, no one knows about it. There's like a chaos in this world always. You will just get lost. But we never get out of Krishna's family if we surrender unto him. Because he controls everything. He's Ishvara. He's Rameshvara. He's in the heart of every living entity. He supports and takes care of his devotees especially. So Krishna says about it in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita 2.40. In this endeavor, there is no loss of or diminution, and a little advancement in this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. But in the sixth chapter of Gita, the Lord says, one who performs auspicious activity is never overcome by evil. The highest auspicious activity, Kalyana, is to surrender to Kṛṣṇa. This is the only path by which to save oneself from falling down into hellish life. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati has confirmed this as follows. The sinful actions of one who has surrendered unto Kṛṣṇa compared to a snake with its poison fangs removed. Such a snake is no longer to be feared. Of course, one should not commit sinful activities on the strength of having surrendered to Kṛṣṇa. However, even if one who has surrendered to Kṛṣṇa happens to do something sinful because of his former habits, such sinful actions no longer have a destructive effect. Therefore, one should adhere to the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa very tightly and serve him under the direction of the spiritual master. Thus, in all conditions, one will be akutapaya, free from fear. So you know that all the sins leave the person, and all the fears, they also go away. So he becomes abhaya, fearless. Unless we have some anarthas, some attachments, of course the person will feel some fear and worries, always. That means that he's still got some karma, some leftovers. But these fears, they go away very quickly when we start practicing sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti liberates us from a lot of worries, excitements. You know, people are very worried by their minds. They're very worried about the political situation in the world, and vaccines, and sexual education and children raised. That's all because the government, the world government, tries to control the world because they cannot cope with it. They cannot make this life more effective. In order to make the progress, you have to make people work. And that's a difficulty here, because people have lost that harm and they also depend on money. If you pay good money, you work good. If you don't get paid on a decent level, you don't want to work. So how do you make people work even for little money? So that's how they're trying to come up, how to control a person, how to make him fulfill his duties. Because people do not want to live well by the freedom of the choice. They have to have some special circumstances. They just want to enjoy more and more, be independent from each other. That's the culture of Kali Yuga. Everyone stands for himself, like independently. More and more, the people become irresponsible. They just fight for some societies. So we devotees, we fight for our society, for our community. We haven't gotten rid of individualism yet. We still argue with each other, we still have conflicts, just because of nothing, just because of some words. But we have to reach dharma, to perform our duties well on a high level. That's why we study Vedas, to bring back dharma that will lead us farther, so we can make our next step. So only dictatorship works these days. That's why people are so worried. So please don't worry, just chant Hare Krishna mantra. Follow sadhana bhakti, follow principles, think about Krishna. That's what we have to do. Do not get under such worries too deep. So people, they start arguing either they need this vaccine or they don't, about the world's order. Don't think about it, this is not a path. These are all just old clothes. These arguments, they've always existed, and they've always led to hell. So do not even start these conflicts, these values. Try to think about Krishna, even in these difficult situations. That's what most important for us. Just follow his instructions. Otherwise, Kali will enter your mind, and we will try to, we will start getting into this politics, because the world is buzzing all the way, all around us. Some rebels as well. We just have to know our duty. We have to preach this knowledge as widely as we can do. So we have to concentrate on that. And in this case, this activity in Krishna's consciousness, it liberates us from this fear. A devotee doesn't care either he lives or he dies. This is just his destiny. People don't just die because of coronavirus. We just live because we get old. It's not about coronavirus. It's about the direction of our activity, what people do in this world, how they perform their duties. We have to have this knowledge. So Prabhupada really wanted this knowledge to bring people out of this chaos. Although this path is paved by some precious stones, a lot of theories, new isms, new innovations, good intentions, but it leads us to hell. Every person going along this path will face Yamarāja, and his life will be evaluated, except for the devotees. It's a whole different story. So Yamarāja for devotees is just a devotee of Krishna. That's why we sell Vancha Kalpataru Pircha. When you see Yamarāja just chant this mantra, you know what's going to happen? Yamarāja will tell you the same thing back to you. Because he is Vaishnava. He does not offend devotees. He knows Bhagavad Gita 9.30. He knows they can do some silly things. Kali Yuga influences them. But if he's devotee, Yamarāja says, I have to protect them. Kṛṣṇa is their Lord, not me. So these things are described in Bhagavad Gita and Shrimad Bhagavatam for our inspiration, for our self-confidence. So we have deep belief to continue our devotional service, to be happy and to spread this happiness with the Krishna's consciousness. So thank you so much, devotees. We've read voluminous purport, that's from the Ajamila's Story of Life. So we've read text 19 in the first chapter of Canto 6. So now we can comment on that, to add something, answer some questions. So thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. So dear devotees, for those who watch us in Zoom, please raise your hand. And those who watch us on YouTube, please follow the link in the description. So there's an instruction there where to send your questions. We will read them online. So Damodara Priya, please turn your mic on. So Karbhajana Prabhu, can you please draw a conclusion first of all? Thank you so much for the lecture, for this detailed explanation of this purport, and you've inspired me for preaching. And I have two questions on your lecture. Both of them are practical. The first about pendants. And we are preparing a theatrical play this moment. So it turns out Lord Chaitanya, when Gopala Chapat came up to him, Lord Chaitanya did not forgive him. He didn't accept him any. Anyway, then Gopala Chapat, he was just living under a tree at the Ganges shore. Then it is explained that Lord Chaitanya was actually waiting until he repents fully. And when Lord Chaitanya has accepted sannyasa, and Gopala Chapat, he has repented fully and sincerely. So he really wanted to become a devotee. He didn't just want to get rid of his disease. So what you said today is we have to repent sincerely and fully. And in connection with that, I have a question. Should we force it? Should we ask Kṛṣṇa to show us like what I have done wrong and what I'm supposed to do to have this relief in my heart? Should we do it kind of artificially to attract this repentance, to ask for that? Or we just have to practice sadhana bhakti and eventually Kṛṣṇa will give us this understanding? And how are we supposed to repent sincerely? Well, you've actually given all the answers already. Well, yeah, you have to ask Kṛṣṇa. You don't have to wait until I become sincere. Just like Chapal Gopal, you see, it took him some time to repent. So he just wanted to get rid of his disease. That's why he has repented. And Lord Chaitanya, he said to him really harshly, so can't you just wait till the disease goes away? What will you do if you get to hell? So that was a tough answer. Then he went away, and then some years after that, during this time, Chapal Gopal, he has realized the position of a devotee, not just the power of Vaishnava, but he's realized how dear he is to the Lord. So that's how the Lord comes back to his devotees. Then Gopal said, okay, you may even not deliver me, but just give me this intelligence, just to see the position of a Vaishnava. So this was totally another kind of repentance. The Lord Chaitanya, he said that, see, it's very easy. Go to the ones that you have offended and ask for their forgiveness. They're very merciful. You just have to get the mercy. And that's how you will get liberated if you understand Vaishnavas. You will get free of all the offenses. Sometimes Vaishnavas can be harsh or even rude, but they're very merciful. They're very pure. A pure person is always merciful. They are kind to the highest extent to all the living entities. Even though they can preach Krishna's consciousness very harshly sometimes, to give you liberation. You can also ask God to give us this ability not to lose the view of Vaishnavas, so we understand their position always. So this story shows us both the power of Vaishnavas and their dignity, their greatness. And then you said that we have to trust Krishna, and since we offer water, flowers, some fruits, prasadam to Krishna on the altar, so Krishna gives us everything we need. So I have this really practical question. So we live in a private house. Right now I'm trying to do some remodeling, and we have to take a lot of trash, a lot of rubbish. And then our neighbors tell us, do not throw that away, and do not throw that away. And my neighbors tell me to keep this and that. And then I think to myself, what if there's war? And what if I need these woods and I don't have these woods in the future and I throw them away right now? So you see, you have this practical intelligence right now. I think everyone should have such neighbors. That's a practical neighbors. You have to have it. You have to have this intelligence. Doesn't mean that we have to refuse all the material demands. We have to be practical, not greedy but practical. Especially Vaishyas. If the person is Vaishya, you cannot throw things away. You have to be really practical. You have to be skillful in these questions. Look at the pipes and you understand how much they cost, whom to sell them to. He see the value of all these things. He's not silly. So that's how people value him, for these qualities. This is also preaching, by the way. So use your nature. If you've taken sannyasa, you don't care about these pipes. But if you haven't taken sannyasa yet, don't forget about dharma. Maybe you start with dharma parityāja. You still live here. So we still have these cucumbers and tomatoes, pumpkins. It's all very useful. Tomatoes like Senor Tomato. We've read all these fairy tales. They all have their own personalities. So live in the world that surrounds you. You have to be adequate. Have that transcendental consciousness. So like Chaitanya Prabhu has asked Srinivasa Thakur, Shrimananda Sena, please look after Vasudevedanta. So even though he had some house, he was very transcendental. He used to give away everything. And then Shivananda Sena was asked to watch over him, take the responsibility for his financial position, because he's totally transcendental. So I think we will have to ask someone to watch over us. Yeah, but this is hard, Bhajana Prabhu, because everyone wants to be just like Vasudeva Tattva. Just like Shivananda Seva. That's the problem. We have a lot of Vasudeva Tattva. So everyone is asking, where is Vasudeva Seva? Where is he coming? So this is an inclination to deceive the nature, probably, to pretend, to be double-faced, hypocritical. Even Nephites does it. Probably he just imitates it. He cannot become a devotee in other way. He's just trying to copy the state of mind. But it's a normal thing. And when his devotee gets purified, they start talking good things, they start preaching, they become very effective devotees. But in the beginning, it's all Vasudeva Tattva. Thank you. So next question, please turn the mic on.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu,
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Chandra prabhu. All Vaishnavas, please accept my obeisances.
Терминный вопрос. Это иногда Кришна приводит как дерево, которое, как он говорит, материальный мир описан здесь видит дерево, корни, которые растут вверх, а ветви вниз.
So Krishna says that material world is like a tree that has his roots up above the surface, but the leaves under the surface. So it's all perverted in the material world. So there's like a difference between lust and love. That's why it's all perverted. Could you please explain the same difference? I'm happy to see you, Radhashyam. So, what is life like in America? You see, it's good America, but here it's bad, you see. So perverted. What is perversion? And about the tree having its roots above the surface. So actually that's like a description of the same thing. But these are all like subtle synonyms. Just a mirror reflection in a common sense. Not even describing the qualities of this reflection. Can be distorted. Not going into some sensual things. Not touching upon gunas. But if it's about gunas, if you touch upon gunas, it's like a reflection in the mode of passion. It's distorted, but in the mode of ignorance, it's perverted. So it gets reflected where? In a mirror, or in water, or in a melted butter. So it's all distorted. It's from the standpoint of gunas. But it's just reflected, just like in a mirror. Kṛṣṇa prabhu, can you add something? I don't think so, except one thing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is using this terminology in Harinama Chintamani. Chaya and Patinimba. Chaya means shadow that falls onto the ground from some object. The other word means the distortion. A shadow does not distort an object. You see, there can be some waves, so the reflection can be distorted. So usually a tree does not grow with its roots above the surface. So it's all like a distortion. It's not like just a normal reflection. It's a distorted reflection. When the tree grows in another direction, or it grows under the ground. And then instead of giving some enjoyment to Krishna, I enjoy myself. But the principle is the same. Reflection, just like in a mirror. Thank you very much. So some Shantarasa is explained as a neutral relationships, right? And at the same time, if you take Goloka Vrindavana, the flute as Madhura Rasa, could you explain what Shantarasa is? In Shantarasa, these devotees are used just like in other rasas, and both Satya Rasa and Dasya Rasa, Matsala Rasa, they'll use these devotees. So what is Shantarasa in Kali Yuga? It's really hard to understand, because it's always going to look like personal, something really personal. It's hard to understand in Kali Yuga because we are infected with impersonalism. The philosophy is impersonal, the position is impersonal at the edge of Kali. The personal philosophy is totally lost. So that's why Lord Chaitanya, he hasn't used Shantarasa at all. He didn't use it in his preaching. He's always started with Dasya Rasa. But Shantarasa, it's just serving all the other rasas, but it's passive. So that's why you should start out with the Dasya Rasa. This is active service and passive service, but it's also service. The flute has its qualities, and it's used by Krishna in a conjugal rasa, Kunapti Gotis. So lips are designed for the conjugal rasa. Flute is for the Shanta rasa, but it touches with the Krishna's lips. So it's hard to understand in the age of Kali. So that's why Shantarasa is not a personal liberation, it's higher. That's like the platform, the basis for all the other rasas. So this rasa starts with the service, with the passive service. So serve to Krishna, he can use it as he wishes. And then we say, what exact service is that? This is already Dasya Rasa, when you want to do something actively, and so on. But the service begins with Shanta. When a person enters ISKCON, he says, I'm ready to serve, so tell me whatever it is I should do. This is Shanta. But matter of fact, this is Dasya already, because they're no different. So there are like passive and active methods of serving. Alright? Thank you very much for this thorough explanation. Can I share with you my understanding of it? So Shanta is a classical definition that's been just defined as peacefulness, inactivity. These are the characteristics of neutral relationships of Shanta. Probably there is some difference between classical Shanta in spiritual world or in Goloka Vrindavana? Because I myself cannot still fully understand it. And I even have a question. So the flute has been just mentioned, and its specific position. Even those who live in Madhura Rasa, they envy. Also the cows, it is said, are in Shanta Rasa. But still they give some milk to Krishna, and Krishna interacts with them as in Vatsalya Rasa. He treats them as mothers, correspondingly. And also the tree of desires in Goloka Vrindavana, in spiritual world, it's Shanta Rasa. But the verses through that was chanted by Srimati Radharani by herself, sacred understanding of loving relationships. So probably there are two categories of Shantarasa, and Goloka Vrindavana and just ordinary Shantarasa. No, not really. Shantarasa is all present in Vaikuntha as well, not only in Goloka. There's the tree of desires there as well. But if you're strict, there's only a Madhura Rasa and that's it. Everything comes out from Madhura Rasa. All the rasas, they serve to Madhura Rasa. That's why they're all interconnected, just like Madhura Puri. So he could say about conjugal relationship with Krishna and Radha. Everything was very open, because this is all connected as one thing. Full Krishna's consciousness. But why did Lord Chaitanya reject Shantarasa? Because people don't get it right in Kali Yuga. Not because it's imperfect, because we misunderstand it. This is just the variety of one and the same rasa. It's all the expansions of Madhurya rasa. So, Damodara Priya, do you have a question to what we're discussing? Because Navakishori had raised your hand before you. Navakishori, turn your mic on. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. So I will add something to the previous question. So our brahmacharis in the temple, when they were doing some remodeling in the temple, they were throwing a lot of things out. So they would just load a whole tractor of all good pipes and boards and all this construction material. And I was fighting for everything. I used to say to them, it's all expensive. They say that, this is all, we have to throw it away. It's all contaminated. So they just took it away very far and threw it out. And the neighbors, they would take all these things back to their homes. So it's an important thing to have this intelligence. Damodara Priya? So just when there are too many things, I start panicking. So I just have to add a little bit. Karpajana Prabhu, you have just mentioned Pratibimba, Jahanamhas. I've just recalled as a spiritual master he said, the difference is that the child, on the appearance, she was even more pale than Prachihimba, because when we see the reflection in our mirror, the reflection is bright. Sometimes the reflection might be even brighter than the object itself. And that's why a devotee, when he develops this Prachibimba, he might do a lot of things on the surface, But this not always does have some basis. But on the other hand, by looking at some reflection, you may not always find the object. So it turns out that not always something bright that we do, like wear some Vaishnava's clothing, tilaka and chandala around, what we're doing kind of on the surface, but it's not the fact that we are such. Just you talk about matter a lot, that's why I wanted to comment. So, as always, you've asked us a question, you've given us a thorough explanation of it. You did a great job. So, extravagancy, there's such a notion, we have to watch out for that. To do something as a show off. So this is a distortion. When we do something just to show off, it's contaminated by lust, or gets perverted by lust. This is Prajabimba. Chai is a shadow. Person looks as a shadow, for example. He follows the instruction of his guru, so he tries to practice as a shadow, like on a humble level. And that's how he connected to Kṛṣṇa. He's connected to Kṛṣṇa even closer. So it turns out, that in time, I noticed that I, for example, depend on some praise. So that's a good progress. So there are some questions on YouTube, so we can start asking them. Can you hear me well? So the first question Mataji Samgita is asking, the notion of the senior devotee, is it about his biological age or how many years he spent in ISKCON? Just as we used to say in the past. So there's a senior devotee and there's an old devotee. So there is a difference. As a matter of fact, we respect both categories. Of course, the amount of knowledge, his spiritual experience, and the age. We have to respect both of these things. But first of all, of course, the level of knowledge of Krishna's consciousness is appreciated higher than the rest of the things. But of course, we have to also respect the age, his social position. All these things are also important. Formally, a senior devotee is judged by the initiation was given to him. Brahma Prabhupada was giving a sannyasa to his disciples, so two of them. So one has taken this sannyasa, and then another one came up. Prabhupada is giving him sannyasa and says, listen to them because he received sannyasa before you. He's going to be a senior devotee to you. Well, it's just like a 1 minute difference. So this is already an etiquette. So he's going to be a senior Vaishnava for you. So that's how he used to teach his disciples. But the highest criterion, of course, is not the age, the time of initiation, but his level of Krishna's consciousness. You put all these factors together, you have this interesting thing of how to teach yourself to do it. If you neglect some things, you will offend someone. So of course, pay attention to his or her age and to the level of his Krishna's consciousness. also can add, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes very well this culture of respect, both in the society and in the society of devotees. He says that you have to respect everybody, and if you take the community of devotees, and among Shudras the accent is made on the age. This is a very important age. Then among Vaishyas, the age, it also matters, it's an important criterion. But those who are independent of the age, they've accumulated a lot of piousness. They do a lot of pious activities. Then among Kshatriyas, age is the courage. So then if a person is being brave, of course that's an important thing. For Brahmins, it's knowledge. And some other factors that might be even less important. But if we are talking about devotees, all these factors, they matter, they do matter. Also bhakti, of course, Krishna's consciousness. In connection with that, I have a story. So Muni that lives for so much time, he's seen the Maya and the creation and the destruction of this universe. So one time he is attended a meeting of some sages, and there was one devotee, Parashara Muni. Parashara means little, he was just 7 years old. And Maitreya Muni, he has seen all the sages, because he understands himself whom to offer his obeisances. So he has passed by all the sages. He started taking bow to Parashara. 7-year-old boy was sitting on the laps of his father. And then they said, Maitreya, what are you doing? You are breaking the etiquette. There are so many sages are here. There were a lot of sages there. Maitreya Muni said, I know all this, but at the same time, if you take Krishna's consciousness level of all the people present here, and then your Krishna's consciousness, it's much bigger. That's why you deserve it the most. Are we taking the next question? Abhiran Prabhu? Swami Prabhu is asking what image of Krishna can be shown to a mass public, not too religious, not too sentimental. So that brings use to people. So the most necessary image of Krishna is the holy name, to sing kirtan. They may not even see the image, but the holy name, the kirtan, is important. They will be able to understand at least something. If they hear kirtan, that's the success, the presence of Krishna. The real image of Krishna is the holy name. First thing is the holy name and then the images. Prabhupada on his public presentations, he didn't actually refer to Krishna's image too often. He was talking about the super soul and heart for just ordinary people. And sometimes he would mention Krishna's name. He would talk about the Lord in the Paramatma's heart. So just like Krishna says about Paramatma and the soul, and sometimes he says aham, which means I. Next question. Another Prabhu is asking. So there's a question, if you at least once have surrendered to Krishna, you'll be saved. What if I surrendered myself 10 times? Doesn't it mean that I'm a hypocrite? So Mark Twain says that it's really easy to stop smoking. I've done it many times. Yeah, it's a very fair question. If you surrender to Krishna just one time, that means that you start this devotional service, you never let it go. You never get off this path anymore. It doesn't matter now what level of Krishna's consciousness you're at now. You've surrendered unto Krishna, and now you start a devotional service. One time is enough. Next question. So when can I, at what age can I start preaching to my children? So to the children. We preach to the children. What age should we start preaching to them? Children can preach at whatever age they desire. As soon as they start speaking, send them to school. They're just wonderful. They're great preachers, actually. They do it themselves. But if you say about preaching to a child when he understands the philosophy, preaching can be different, not only philosophy. You can preach by the image of your lifestyle. This is also preaching. So you have to specify. Thank you, so you've given us a very thorough answer from both sides. Nitya Mangala Prabhu is asking. So dear Guru Maharaj, please tell us about the kindness of Krishna. And tell us, please, how do I cultivate the quality of kindness? Is there a limit of kindness? There's no limit. Kindness is the combination of two things, as it is described in Bhagavad Gita. Happiness and knowledge. That's how virtue develops. Happiness and knowledge. We have to cultivate the knowledge. That's one thing. And cultivate your qualification in activity. That's two. So that's all our main things. That's how virtue forms. Perform your activities and deepen your knowledge. It's like boiling milk. That's how our virtues are formed. There's no limit to that. Another question from Narama Prabhu. So tell us, please, how do I get a strong desire? Ulyam Papava Bhakti, and how do I surrender to Krishna? As an example, with the king Tushabhara, what does it take to do it? knowledge and happiness. Maybe then it is possible to surrender quickly. By judging the time measuring of demigods, the King Tadhama had surrendered just one instant just because he had some knowledge and happiness. He was close to this level of surrender. He's always been ready to surrender. He was ready for that. So now we are trying to develop this readiness to develop our pure virtue. We don't just do some pious things. We try to spread knowledge of Kṛṣṇa. That's how we can get this qualification of the highest virtue. And from this platform, a person can surrender to Kṛṣṇa very quickly. You're asking about what surrender to Kṛṣṇa means. That means that you have nothing, but you can use everything, because everything is Kṛṣṇa's energy. Your intelligence, mind and body, money's objects, anything you have, because you do understand, you do realize that nothing belongs to you. You give it all to Kṛṣṇa, all that you have. This is called surrender. So that's how you reach the top of yoga. You have to develop the virtue, knowledge and happiness. When you're mourning, you can't surrender to Kṛṣṇa. You have to be happy. Happy in the realization of your spiritual nature. So these two criteria. Surrender itself does not depend on this knowledge. It only depends on your desire. So we desire to surrender to Kṛṣṇa, but it doesn't work out. Why? Because we lack knowledge and happiness. We surrender to Kṛṣṇa step by step. Eventually. We desire it, we want it, but we don't quite understand what it means. Sometimes we want to surrender to Kṛṣṇa just because they want to get rid of some diseases, some miseries. We don't understand what perfection is. The Kṛṣṇa, he gets involved in this process. All this is simple, because your mind and speech and body, they all serve to Kṛṣṇa. But a lot of people, they haven't just realized what mind and intelligence are. But we've heard it so many times that we have to understand it practically. Theoretically, I've already given my mind to Kṛṣṇa. Here's my mind, here's my intelligence. I don't know what it is, but anyways, this is yours. Just the person that has fallen in love. All these stars belong to you. This is more or less poetic, theoretic phrase, emotional phrase. But matter of fact, we have to understand how to give it. We have to know the technology. I give you my mind, but what does it mean? How are you supposed to do that? How do you cling on to your mind? How am I give it to Kṛṣṇa? I have some questions. Just like I give my money to Kṛṣṇa in my house, will I just be left without all these things? So you see, you have to understand what Kṛṣṇa consciousness is in practice. But of course this surrender happens naturally. You might even not understand what's happening, but it's happening naturally, because it's followed by real love. You don't even understand if it's right or wrong, but you just do it naturally. When you eat prasadam, you just do it naturally. You know how to do it, right? Or dance kirtan. It's natural. We just do it. It's all connected with Krishna, that's it. This is Krishna's consciousness. Another question? Yamarāja prabhu is asking.
Как вообще возможно, чтобы этой внутренней искренности не было у человека? Ведь внутри душа...
How is it even possible that we don't have this sincerity in ourselves? Because the soul is inside of us, right? So you said that sincerity might be absent, for example, but the question is, how can it even possible? How can it even be possible that there's no sincerity inside of us? Of course, it's always there, but it may come out of the false ego. So that's called insincerity, or perverted pratibimba. So it's all perverted if it comes out of your false ego. So insincerity is the one that goes through ahankara. Lust is love to God, but through the mode of passion. You see, so it can be perverted, can be distorted. Another question, how to understand what my duty is? Well, if it's Maharaji, we already understand what your duty is. It also depends on your age. In a higher sense, everything is understandable. We are the servants of Krishna, right? That's it. So whatever it is that we do, eat or drink, we all offer to Krishna. But your duty, the material duty, in Kali Yuga, it's really difficult to define because everything is contaminated. If you're told what your duty is, it's not going to help you, because you may not be qualified in your duty so far. Not trained, you don't have some scars yet, you haven't become what you're supposed to become. So now just serve. If you do not know your nature, the main thing is serving to Krishna. By getting purified of all these anarthas, the nature will get manifested by itself. You will get purified. Our main qualification is serving to Krishna. And after this, you will have no questions. You will see for yourself. Thank you. Another question? So I've started preaching more actively in the internet, trying to advance myself. And then I understand that I'm getting onto the mode of passion. I become greedy and I have more desires right now. And my japa has become not so effective. Well, good job, I understand. Now you're trying to fight against Maya. You faced your glory already. You see, that's how you have these important questions right now, not just theoretical. And congratulate you on that. Fight with Maya. Win. And serve to Krishna. Glorify Krishna yourself. Glorify your spiritual master. Serve. When you feel you have this ego, go to a temple and wash floors, peel potatoes, cook prasadam, do something for the devotees. Thank you. So tell us, please, what we're supposed to do if a devotee is sick with COVID, for example, but still he spreads books outside. Is it the right thing to do? he says that it's a good thing anyways. You see, that's a devotee. He has infected. So it's like a transcendental infection or something. Of course, there might be different points of view. Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Kanishthadhikari. It should be practical. If you're sick, don't do that. Do not infect others. So it's not a philosophical approach, but the practical one. People will not understand this.
Спасибо. Александр Прабhu, расскажите, пожалуйста, об искренности истинной и мнимой.
So tell us, please, about the sincerity, the real one and the one that we just imagine, or pretend. Well, for example, it seems to me that I have sincerity. Just I have other transcendental qualities, for example. I even might have some spiritual body. You see, I can just make up a lot of things in my mind. So I can find whatever, anything in myself. So any artist knows that if you paint some picture and you look deep into the nature, so deep into the, you look into the like dandelion, it's yellow, and you see some other colors there as well. A lot of combinations of all this yellow, of all these colors, and you lose this color, this central color. It's called micromanagement, something that you imagine. So you lose the understanding of the main object. If you see yellow, call it yellow. If you want Kṛṣṇa, serve to Kṛṣṇa. But you think to yourself, what does it mean to serve to Kṛṣṇa? That means that I can just serve to people. That would also mean serving to Kṛṣṇa. Otherwise, you serve to no one knows who. Don't forget about this sincerity. This is sincerity. Thank you. So do I stop offending people? How do I start criticizing people? How do I purify my heart? I just preach. Of course, we criticize people for his bad qualities or actions, but try to preach to people. It takes you up to the level of compassion. When you see these fallen people becoming devotees, that's when you feel what compassion is. How important it is to express your mercy to them. So this transformation might change your relationship to people, because they also have a soul, even bad people.
Наверное, последний вопрос зачитаю. Несколько вопросов есть повторяющихся, мы на них уже отвечали. Я зачитывать не буду.
Sorry, the last question probably.
Как понять, что душа неподвижна, недвижима?
How to understand that soul is not movable? I try to move it. You see, it's not possible. You can't. From the material platform, it's not possible. Even when your body moves, your soul does not. Matter of fact, it's not in your body. Well, of course, it is in your body. It's consciousness, but the soul itself, it cannot fit your body. The soul, with the help of spiritual features, it is possible, but matter of fact, the soul cannot fit anybody. Matter of fact, it's not material, right? So that's why it cannot fit your body. So the point is that the soul cannot be moved by gunas or by time, by the space itself. All these factors that do not influence the soul. The soul is beyond all these things. In this sense, it's not movable. But on the other hand, it's dynamic, it's very active. How can it be not movable? So the soul, it has these two contradictory factors. It's movable as an ether, it's not movable as a dart. So not movable means that its nature is eternal. First we say about its status, the constitution, because it's eternal, full of knowledge and perfection. You cannot move it away from this position. It's not possible because it cannot be changed. It does not become smaller or bigger. It is the same soul, eternal soul, the servant of God. But on the other hand, it's very movable, it's very active and various. So just like the ocean, it can actually move out of its shores, of its borders, but it doesn't. It stays within its borders. It's statical and dynamical at the same time, the soul. Heavy and light at the same time. Strict and tender at the same time. All the qualities that we see here, the soul itself has all of them. If you unite all the living entities in just one thing, only then you will be able to understand what the soul is. Factually, it's not this body at all. So the last question for today.
Здесь еще в YouTube прислали пару-тройку.
Но ты сказал последний там, потому что...
Да, был последний. Был последний.
Следующий. Раз. Да, Дамодар, Прия.
Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu затронул про одно мгновение. Там был вопрос, по-моему, да?
So there was a question about just one instance.
Когда в Бхагаватам говорится о мгновении, там в санскрите...
When in Bhagavatam it says something about constant, it says muhurta, but we know that muhurta is like 40 minutes, it's not just 1 second, 1 instant. 1 instant.
Там, по-моему, слово лава матра. И мухурта это 36 минут.
So muhurta is like 36 minutes.
Мухурта это 48 минут.
Muhurta is 48 minutes. But as far as I remember, there was something in text about muhurta. So you have to take into consideration the context. It should be taken. The demigods are asked, but not the sages. Their time is different. They measure the time in a different way. It takes them an instance to give the answers. But from the point of view of daytime measurement, so muhurta here, 48 minutes. So 1 day of demigods is 6 months here. So it's about 6 days in our earthly days. So 1 muhurta of demigods here is about 6 days. I don't remember for sure, but it's about that. So it's like a week or something. But it's just mathematics. Thank you very much for this Shrimad Bhagavatam, interesting Shrimad Bhagavatam's class. Thank you. So I need to hear a couple of words from you about what you feel from our conversations when we have them online. So we are already used to communicating online. Well, of course, personal association is better, always. But the internet makes a lot of useful things for us in terms of the scale, the globality. And I just wanted to ask, how is it a good thing to do? It's like probably about cooking. You can cook it using woods, you can cook using electricity, or you cannot cook at all. You may not cook at all. So probably we're using the technologies, we use the technology, but still we survive, you see. So all the best to you. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. It was a very good example. If you don't cook, then we'll just die. If you don't eat any food, Shravanam Kirtanam, and in this way, so you see the child is being so happy. I think he has eaten something already. He's had some food. So Hare Krishna to all of you. Have a good day.